This is the giant squid, a legendary creature of the deep. It can grow up to 13 meters long, longer than a school bus, and has inspired countless stories about krakens and sea monsters for thousands of years. But interestingly, the giant squid is not the largest squid on Earth. Because evolution came up with something different. One squid may not be as long, but it weighs twice as much as its giant cousin. This monster is called the colossal squid. They're not the same species, genus, or even family. Their only common classification is at the order level, Egopsida. The deep-sea squids that drift across the vast ocean. And of those thousands of species, only these two reach such enormous sizes that they truly deserve their name. Even more strangely, they live in completely different oceans, on opposite sides of the planet. They have never met, never competed, and perhaps don't even know of each other's existence. Both species are thought to have a common ancestor, who lived about 60 to 100 million years ago, near the end of the Cretaceous period. But fossil evidence is extremely scarce. Squid bodies are soft and fragile, disintegrating after just a few weeks. Only their beaks, hard like parrot beaks, may survive for millions of years, offering rare clues to the past. After the dinosaurs disappeared, that ancient lineage split. One branch became the Archaeopterygidae, the ancestors of the giant squid. The other branch became the Cranchidae, which gave rise to the giant polar squid. What's fascinating is, both species reached their giant size, but not because they inherited the genes of a giant ancestor. They evolved to giantness independently. A perfect example of convergent evolution. Where two unrelated species face a similar challenge and come up with the same solution. In the darkest corners of Antarctica, deep beneath the waves, where no light can penetrate, lives a creature built to survive in the coldest depths on the planet, Colossal. Unlike its cousin, the giant squid, which roams the temperate oceans, this species lives in isolation on the ocean floor, thriving in icy silence. Both species reach their giant size, but by very different routes. Giant squid grew large by deep-sea gigantism, where extreme pressure and darkness forced their bodies to become larger. The colossal, which lives in icy waters, evolved polar gigantism, large bodies that help retain heat, conserve energy, and survive in the extreme cold. Yes, both species became giants, but for slightly different reasons. Their common ancestor diverged millions of years ago, each adapting differently. But nature led them both down the same path. Creating two giants that dominated the deep ocean. This is convergent evolution. Two unrelated creatures developing similar traits to overcome the same challenge. Being huge isn't just about looking like a sea monster. Large bodies help conserve energy, store oxygen for long dives, maintain a stable temperature, and intimidate potential predators. In the deep ocean, size is power, and these squids demonstrate that rule perfectly. They are not identical, however. The giant squid is long, sleek, and agile, weighing an average of 225 kilograms. The colossal can weigh up to 670 kilograms, making it the heaviest invertebrate on the planet. If the giant squid is a sword, the colossal is a fortress. The first increases speed, the second increases power. Both rely on jet propulsion, sucking in water and then spitting it out to propel themselves through the ocean. The giant squid can reach speeds of around 25 miles per hour, hunting quickly and accurately. The colossal being heavier and less aerodynamic. Only reaches a maximum of 12 miles per hour. It doesn't need to move quickly. The strategy is to be patient and wait. The giant squid lives in the icy silence of Antarctica. Here, conservation of energy is everything. Instead of chasing prey, it waits. When a fish like the Antarctic toothfish swims too close, it strikes once with terrible force. Its tentacles are equipped with sharp, rotating hooks that pierce and lock onto its prey. Ensuring that once it is caught, it will never let go. Both squids possess one of their most effective evolutionary weapons: their beaks. Hidden under their arms, the beaks are made of layers of tough chitin. Similar to the material in insect shells, but harder than bone. In the vast ocean, where there is no surface to pin their prey, their beaks allow them to tear apart in midwater. These creatures are made from the same ocean blueprint, but designed for two different worlds. The giant squid rules with speed and stealth. The colossal rules with patience and strength. They may never meet, but their stories mirror each other perfectly, proving one of the oldest truths of evolution. Nature finds a solution that works and rewrites it twice. The upper and lower halves of the squid's beak are razor sharp, acting like a parrot's beak. Slicing through flesh and bone with almost no effort. Once the prey is dismembered, the radula, a tongue covered with teeth that points backward, crushes it into tiny pieces before swallowing. What would happen if a giant squid invaded Antarctica? Would it gradually grow heavier, develop hooks, and become a colossal? Evolution doesn't happen that quickly. Even if they ventured into the icy depths, they would never meet. The two giants were separated by distance and depth, destined to never meet. And perhaps that was for the best. If they met, they would probably eat each other. There is one predator, however, that understands both species: the sperm whale. It is strong and bold enough to hunt them regularly. diving thousands of feet into the darkness. Guided by echolocation. Sperm whales find giant squid and polar squid. The evidence is on their bodies, scars from suckers and hooks inside their stomachs. The beaks of both species, the only undigested remains. For sperm whales, convergent evolution is advantageous. The more giant squid there are, the more food there is. They don't care if the squid has hooks or suckers and weighs 220 kilograms or 600 kilograms. Just a big, high-energy meal. But this also reveals a consequence of convergent evolution. When species evolve similar traits, they often share common weaknesses. And for these squid, the challenger is none other than the sperm whale. This relationship creates an arms race in the deep sea. Squids continue to grow larger and faster to avoid predators, while sperm whales evolve to dive deeper and hold their breath longer. Each species pushes the other to the limits of endurance and survival. Convergent evolution isn't about cool monsters or being lazy. It's about efficiency. When a biological design works, life tends to repeat it. Sharks and dolphins both developed streamlined bodies for fast swimming. Bats and birds evolved independent wings. The Australian marsupial wolf looks like a real wolf, even though it's only a distant relative. Squids are no exception. Giant squid, long tentacles, suckers, increased speed, and hunting. The colossal, thick limbs, hooks, increased endurance and strength. Both became giants of the deep, shaped by environmental challenges. Evolution is ultimately about adaptation. It's not perfect, but it's incredibly effective. Some designs disappear, others survive. Among the persistent designs are the giant squid and the polar squid, evidence that nature's blueprint for hunting giant, mysterious deep-sea predators remains incredibly effective. So what would it take for a third squid to evolve from the same giant blueprint? It would need similar conditions as the first two: darkness, cold, extreme pressure, or all at once. In fact, we may already be seeing the early stages of this process. Dana squid, short and wide, weighing up to 160 kilograms. Hook squid, about 4.6 m long, robust. They are not yet true giants, but the phenomenon of giantism is beginning to take shape in their bodies and shapes. If some squid were dropped into the deep ocean and forced to adapt over millions of years, it's very possible that a new species would emerge, a true giant squid, as the name suggests. I may not be very good at naming them, but the concept is clear. Imagine you're adrift in the Antarctic Ocean, looking down at the surface. You might expect to see small fish or clumps of plankton, but the reality is much more terrifying. Giant spiders with legs longer than dogs crawling along the seafloor. jellyfish with tentacles longer than whales drifting slowly. Even normal fish have grown to unusually large sizes. This is polar gigantism, where evolution has allowed life to flourish. Most people have never heard of this phenomenon because it only occurs in the coldest oceans on Earth. You might think that life would shrink in harsh environments to conserve energy, but the opposite happens. Animals here grow to sizes far exceeding their warmer water relatives. Small creatures become big, large creatures become giant. Why does this happen? Let's look at the colossal squid. Many people assume its huge size is just a result of deep-sea gigantism, but the story is more complex. Colossal squids live around Antarctica, where water temperatures hover at or below 0 degrees Celsius. They had to adapt to this extreme cold. They belong to the glass squid family, which includes many transparent species, but here, being see-through is not very useful. Instead, they developed thick bodies to retain heat while still maintaining stealth. Their reddish skin absorbs the faint bioluminescent light from prey, making them nearly invisible in the deep sea. With very few predators aside from sperm whales, the colossal squid's body is designed to sneak up on prey rather than flee. I guess in Antarctica, the creature with the most arms wins. Antarctic starfish can live for over 40 years on average, compared to the 5-year lifespan of their relatives in warmer waters. This is another example of polar gigantism, turning small, cute creatures into enormous, almost bizarre versions of themselves. This effect also produced the longest animal on Earth, the lion's mane jellyfish. Its tentacles are much longer than the length of a blue whale. The blue whale is heavier in terms of mass, but this comparison shows just how extraordinary polar gigantism can be. Compared to its relative, the blue jellyfish, which lives in warm waters, the difference is clear. Warm water animals are never pushed to become giants. Looking at these massive deep-sea creatures, you might wonder if oxygen alone can explain their enormous size. While oxygen plays a major role, it's not the whole story. Cold water also slows down metabolism, making large bodies incredibly efficient, burning less energy per unit of mass. The frigid oceans are remarkably stable. Temperatures hardly change, pressure remains constant, and predators are few. In such an environment, animals have no reason to stay small and fast. They can afford to be huge, slow, and built like tanks. Exactly the strategy the colossal squid evolved to master. You might think that polar bears or emperor penguins are examples of polar gigantism, but they're not. This phenomenon only applies to cold-blooded animals, which rely on their environment to regulate body temperature and draw oxygen directly from the water. For them, cold water means more oxygen, slower metabolism, and no wasted energy on generating heat. Warm-blooded animals, on the other hand, must constantly burn energy to stay warm. The larger they get, the more calories they need. In the polar regions where food is scarce, growing too big becomes a survival burden. Thanks to Bergman's rule, warm-blooded animals in polar regions tend to be larger than their tropical relatives. Bigger bodies retain heat more efficiently. That's why polar bears grow massive and emperor penguins tower over their smaller tropical counterparts. Their large body mass acts as natural insulation, allowing them to survive in freezing temperatures. But there's a limit. Greater size demands constant energy. In an environment where food is scarce, becoming too large can turn into a survival risk. On a smaller scale, Bergman's effect is still clearly visible. Antarctic copepods are the giant versions of ordinary plankton, weighing nearly 10 times more than their tropical relatives. Most copepods are almost invisible without a microscope, but in Antarctica, some species can grow up to a full centimeter long, large enough to be seen with the naked eye. They're not monstrous like squids, but in the world of plankton, these are true giants. However, not every creature in the polar oceans grows massive. Some experience the opposite effect, known as polar dwarfism. Certain Antarctic fish species, such as icefish and snailfish, are noticeably smaller than their relatives in warmer waters. In environments where food is scarce, a smaller body helps them mature faster, reproduce sooner, and survive longer without requiring much nourishment. Evolution has many solutions. Survival doesn't always mean getting bigger. The cold doesn't just affect size, it slows down life itself. In the polar oceans, everything moves in slow motion. Metabolism, reproduction, even chemical reactions. Some Antarctic species take decades to complete a single generation. Starfish, sea spiders, sea urchins, and fish have remained almost unchanged for millions of years, becoming living fossils. Antarctica is a world frozen in time, where every creature is perfectly tuned to survive in a stable, predictable, and icy environment. But stability is also a weakness. The polar giants were built for icy, oxygen-rich waters. Once the environment begins to change, their advantages disappear. Warmer water holds less oxygen, metabolism speeds up, and those massive bodies become a burden. Many of the species that once ruled the deep could end up suffocating under the weight of their own size. It's a strange mix of awe and sadness. These deep-sea giants, perfected by millions of years of evolution, are also incredibly fragile. Their world is so unique that even the smallest change can turn a colossal creature into a victim of its own size. These beings are living relics from another world. And don't worry, they pose virtually no threat to humans. The cold shapes evolution in the most unexpected way. Instead of killing life, freezing water makes it grow enormous. Plankton, starfish, squids all expand in ways that seem almost impossible. Polar gigantism is nature's strange way of turning the coldest oceans into a kingdom of giants. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more fascinating videos.